All right. So I've made you feel all good, all warm and fuzzy, like having a business is the best thing ever. And there's a lot of good parts to it, but today is time for a reality check. Okay. And that is people aren't always going to pay you on time. You know why? Because they're people. And some people are cool and some people aren't. Some people are really nice, but they just have some type of circumstance or situation where they would like to pay you on time, but they can't. And you understand. It might be a sweet little old lady from church. It might be I don't know, it might be a relative or somebody. You just look, people aren't always going to pay you on time, and you need to be prepared for it, right? The best way to be prepared for it is to have your emergency fund, like I love to talk about, 3 to 6 months of monthly expenses, your personal monthly expenses, so that no matter what, your mortgage, your car payment, stuff you got to do for your kids and your family is taken care of. Okay. So number one, that's the thing you need to rely on should things ever go left with people paying on time. Right. All right. But secondly, you should have enough money in your business banking account or your business checking account to be able to kind of work a little bit ahead of your expenses. And here's what I mean. Most businesses, I'll just say with my business, I invoice, right? So that means I don't get paid 100% of what I charge up front. I basically do the service first, and then I send the bill or the invoice, and I typically get paid within 30 days, right? Now, what would be great is if I charged someone $1,000, they wrote me a check that day for $1,000, and then I go off and spend what I need to spend. Maybe I need to hire a camera operator, and then maybe I have to buy some stuff, right? And let's say I spend $300 on the camera guy for like a couple hours, and let's say I spend $200 on food and all the other stuff that I need to do the job. So I charge the client $1,000. I have $500 in expenses. $500 would be profit to me, right? In an ideal world, since the client already gave me the money, my camera guy gets paid. We pay for the food. I get my money. Everything happens at the same time, but the client has to wait, right? And the client may not like that, right? Because what's the guarantee that I'm going to do exactly what I said, right? They may not know me like that. They may trust me, but they just like having some type of insurance that I can't just run away with all the money. And that's fair. Hence the invoice. Whether it's 30 days or 2 weeks, it's a period of time that allows me to do the service. I'm motivated to do the job and complete the job because I haven't been paid yet. And they have some type of assurance that they're not going to have to give up all their money until the job is completed satisfactorily in a satisfactory manner, right? So, so here's how it works. Here's how I would suggest working that to where you don't have to worry so much about not getting paid, right? Because in a scenario when you send an invoice and you haven't made them pay anything, right? You get zero up front and you send a bill for $1,000 at the end. Well, your job may not happen for a month. So you wait for a month. You're hiring people. You may have to do stuff. You may have to get commitments from somebody, right? You may have to buy the stuff now. You have a whole bunch of expenses that are occurring before you even start the job. And then you start the job, do the job, and then if you send the invoice, then it's another 30 days on top of that before you get paid. So it might be 60 days from when you made the agreement to getting the money. That's bad, right? Because you don't have any money. You have a whole bunch of expenses with your life, your business, your contractors, and the expenses to do the job, and you're just waiting for the money. So a better way to do it is if you're dealing with an individual, let's say it's a wedding, let's say it's like an individual person that's not a business, require some type of deposit. Whether it's a third, 50%. 50% usually is the norm, right? Or just break up the payments where it's like you give me a third now, a third when I do this milestone, and then give me the rest when I actually hand you the thing or finish the project. And that way your expenses get covered. They're basically, your client's fronting you the money that you need to do that portion of the job. That way, they're not completely in the cold if you decide to run off with the money, right? And you're not completely in the cold waiting to get paid when you have expenses that are happening, right? So that's a good thing to do, is like stagger your deposits, especially if you're dealing with a very small company, an individual, or someone that you feel like, look, they don't have a legal department, right? So it's probably best that you guys just figure this thing out together. Now, for your more established companies, small, big, like, mid-sized or more established, your corporations, like your really big companies, you probably won't have an option to make them pay a deposit. They probably have an established way of how they pay their vendors, right? So especially with the bigger companies. With the bigger companies, you're not getting a deposit, right? They know that everyone would line up to do business for them because they're pretty much is a guaranteed payment, right? And these bigger companies have a lot more money, so the average invoice size is huge or bigger than a small company. So they're gonna make you wait, right? And for them, you may have to sign up for a service or register to get into their system just to start the process of getting paid. So for example, I had a Fortune 500 company I work with. I had to register in their system, which took about 2 weeks just for me to submit the invoice. And I couldn't even use my own invoice. I had to use their form. And then they paid me through like a direct deposit thing. The nice thing about that is that it did speed it up for future invoices. But that first time, it took almost like 60 days to get paid, right? So with your bigger company, you will get paid, but you may not get paid on time, which can mess up what you're trying to do with your household and your business expenses, especially if you're renting out a place and leasing a place to do your business, right? They want their money now, and your client wants to pay you later. And so that disconnect is going to be problematic for you if you don't manage it in some way, right? Now, again, with like middle-sized clients, sometimes you can charge them a deposit and, they're okay with it. But a lot of times they're going to want that full 30 days as well. They're going to want to be able to get all the work done before they pay you. So put it this way. The easiest way, this is how I typically did it. If the person who's hiring me is also the person writing the check, I want a deposit, okay? Because they are personally connected to that money. And if things go left for them and they let's say they got to get some new tires, or their kid does something crazy and they have to replace something, they're personally attached to that money, and they're likely to give excuses to me to try to delay me. You know what I'm saying? So if the person's right, the person who hired me, person who signed the agreement is writing the check, I want a deposit. All right. If the client is a business and the person who hired me sends me to like another department to get paid, I'm typically okay with an invoice, right? Because there's no longer that personal connection to the money, right? It's not coming out of that person's checking account. They're just approving the job to be done, and they send it off to some other department to get done, which means that I'm likely to get paid because it's just the person who writes me the check is just doing their job. That's just part of their job. They write a bunch of checks all day to all the people they owe money to. But like I said, sometimes it may take a little longer to get paid. So just keep that in mind. If it's ever a nonprofit, let's just say there's a reason they're called nonprofits, okay? And so with them, I try my best to get a deposit. I treat them like an individual because nonprofits like churches and, anything that deals with like, I love what they do, but when it comes to money, they take the longest to pay, and it's always some type of very valid excuse as to why they're not paying me on time. And because they do good work, and it's like this good cars and, warm fuzzies, you don't want to cuss them out, right? You think about it, but they're all like trying to do good things in the community, so you don't want to just like be too hard on them. But that's what I'm saying. You need to get that deposit because they have a million reasons to not pay you, because nonprofits really got a lot of things to worry about, and they're usually always running out of money. So if they have a choice between, if they have to choose between keeping the lights on and paying you, guess what? Okay? Get your money up front if possible for the individuals and the nonprofits. But yeah, get your money up front, 100% up front if you can, but realistically, at least do a deposit. And that's the thing, because what you're trying to do is make a situation where you respect the need for them to have some type of security, where I have skin in the game, where I can't just run off with the money, but I have expenses too. And y'all need to meet in the middle as much as you can, right? Big companies, you can't do that. They don't care, right? You're going to get paid. It'll just take forever. But everyone else, medium, small companies and down all the way to individuals, y'all need to come to some type of understanding, right? Maybe your invoices are 2 weeks and you expect to be paid in 2 weeks, because remember, you got expenses. You got your family expenses, your personal expenses, your home life expenses, and you also have expenses for your business. And all those people want to get paid, and they want to get paid now, right? Where everyone else wants to pay you in the future. And so that disconnect is what can cause problems. You basically have a cash flow problem and you have a cash crunch problem, and you can't do what you need to do. And now you have to tell your mortgage or the people you hire or your vendors that, hey, I can't pay you because someone hasn't paid me. You don't ever want to be in that situation, because you look bootleg, okay? You want to make sure that push come to shove, the people who do work with you and you work with and that you trust, pay them, right? Pay them on time. You can always tell them that things are tough. That's fine, but pay them on time and try to put the pressure on the people who owe you money, okay? But again, try to get that deposit or some type of milestone payment agreement where you do this, you get paid a little bit. You do that, you get paid a little bit. It just depends on what you're doing. If you have a barbershop, you ain't got to worry about none of this, because if they try to walk out that door without paying, it's going to be a problem, because there's 80 of y'all and one of him. You know what I'm saying? But for your invoice type business, try to stagger, try to get your money as soon as possible. And which means that you're going to have to either use your emergency funds in your personal or your business, banking account to float you for a while until you get this check that comes in, right? And that's about it. I'm trying to think of anything else. Oh, last thing. There's 2 tips I would say to help you deal with people not paying on time. And one is offer to let them pay by credit card. Okay? People are really, really cool with like just swiping their card, right? And a lot of employees, like the people who hire you, might be an employee and they may have a corporate card, and they'll have like an allowable limit they can use. They're so quick to give you that card, like they're not attached to it. They'll just be like, hey, can you take a card? And if you say no, then that's when you have to go through that long process. The only problem with the card is a lot of times you'll get charged 3%. Like your credit card company or whoever you use to get money into your account, they'll pay you with a credit card, and then someone takes out a 3% fee to then give you what's left. And so you can either charge more to take credit cards or just eat it. If it means getting the money faster, if I can get the money in 1 week versus 90 days, it might be worth me to eat 3% of whatever I'm charging. You get what I'm saying? So just keep that in mind, or you might give them some type of discount to say, hey, if you pay within 2 weeks, I'll give you like a 1%, 2% discount, whatever. But 1 is take a credit card. 2 is give them some type of discount for paying quicker than 30 days, right? You give them a discount. And then What's a good one? And the third is just a general good practice. Once you get all the decision makers to say yes to the project, whether it's a signed agreement or a verbal agreement or some type of acknowledgement, like a QuickBooks agreement, like, yes, I like the estimate, whatever. Send the invoice on that day. That way they have it in their hands. They can start their processes to handle, paying people, so that by the time you finish the job, you're actually well into your 30 days, right? Don't wait to finish the job to send the invoice. Because, especially if you like being nice and you're trying to be like a helpful person and you don't want to even send the invoice until after you've done the job. Don't do that. Once you have the agreement, send the invoice, right? And if they express some type of displeasure with that, just say, look, I just want to make sure you have the invoice in your hands. Of course, I'm not expecting to get paid until I get the job done, but at least it allows the process to go if you have internal processes. That sounds a lot better than, hey, I'm just trying to get paid on time, right? Because I got a mortgage, I got kids, I got stuff I got to do, and I ain't trying to have you mess it up, right? So that's the nicer way to say it, okay? All right. I'm sure there's more to this, but it's already like one of my longest videos. So I'm just going to chill out right here and we'll pick it up another time. If you have any questions, put them in the comments. I'll answer them in a future video. And until then, y'all take it easy. All right, bye.